Radical.
Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome to Radical Rapid Fire Comment Response for January the 4th through the 10th, 2020. Uber Newman, I've enjoyed AVGN over the years, but it's pretty clear that it's run its course. I think of Seinfeld when it was still okay, when Larry David left the show, but rewatching it, you could tell it was Larry David that made the show what it was. Seems like the same with this. The more you watch Mike and his videos, the more you see that AVGN was heavily influenced by his input. Well, obviously, there, of course, would be no AVGN without Mike. So, kind of like, if Mike's gone, then, I mean, they could still do it. They're still going to do it, definitely, because it is a cash cow. Because what would Cinemassacre be without AVGN? You know? I mean, they're going to continue putting that pocket protector and the glasses on him, you know, because the thing is, he's got all these things he's doing outside of AVGN, right? He's doing the music. What, Rex Viper, is that the name of the band? He's doing the autobiography, which is hilarious, by the way, because usually autobiographies are for, I don't know, really important figures or important people. I'm not saying he's not important, but really, like an autobiography for James? I don't know. So, yeah, it's run its course, obviously. It's past the sell-by date. Can they still make some good episodes? Yeah. Sorry about that. Can they still make good episodes? Yeah, but it's just like the spirit is gone. And with Mike gone, I mean, like, what's even the point? You know, it's just like they're going to continue it and just run it into the ground. But the thing is, a lot of people, they still just want more AVGN. Even after it's clear, just like Seinfeld, that it ran its course and it's not nearly as good as it used to be. Next up, Capcom Fan 82. I'm starting to believe that people donate games or money to these YouTubers because it's like buying a shirt of a band you like. It just makes them feel closer to the person. What else could it be? It's crazy, really. Well, obviously. Like, nobody becomes a patron of somebody and gives them $100 a month unless there's something else there, unless there's an expectation that they want to feel closer to the person. You know, nobody drops $100, you know, during a gaming live stream for somebody unless they want to feel closer to the person. This idea that, you know, it's entertainment, you know, and they're paying for the entertainment, that's no. That's not the case here. There's the personal attachment. Because if it was just for entertainment, all right, if these YouTube channels, if these episodes came on TV, a lot of people wouldn't feel like they would need to give money to the television, right? But it's these personal connections. That's why I always bring up why these people give so much large amounts of money to these people. It's not because they're that great. It's not that. It's just the fact that a lot of people out there are sad and lonely and want that personal connection. That's why I think just in general, donations should be capped at a certain amount. Or if you have that possibility and you're a decent human being, you should cap those amounts because you know some people are going to give you a lot of money because they want to feel close to you. They want to feel that special connection. And they're just, you know, they're just weak-willed, weak-minded, or in some cases very depressed people. And yeah, that's what it is. They just want to feel that connection. 100% right there, Capcom Fam 82. Sneaky V. I've seen Norm in person, the gaming historian, before. Seems like an alright guy, but he should definitely pause his Patreon account for every month he doesn't upload. Alpha Mega Sin is the bigger Patreon offender here. I disagree with you, Sneaky V. I think Alpha Mega Sin is not the bigger offender. I think Alpha, and I have company here, sorry, they're watching TV in the living room. Alpha Mega Sin is not the bigger offender because you look at dollar amount. There's not a lot of money really being, I mean, it's not a lot of money going into Alpha's Patreon. It's scummy, of course, that he's getting money for basically nothing because he's not uploading. But you look at Gaming Historian and how much he's making on Patreon compared to the amount of his uploading schedule. 1 8-minute video every couple months? For what, $4,000 a month? Okay, you're looking at the return on investment, you know, and sure, Alpha's like just scratching his ass, you know, not uploading any YouTube videos on his YouTube channel, but he's not making a ton on Patreon and doesn't have a lot of patrons. So I do disagree with you, Sneaky V. I do think of the two, gaming historian is worse. Juice Memorial. Yes, Norm makes an 8-minute plus video about a contraption no one ever heard of or cared about. Way to go, Norm. It takes many months to make such an in-depth video about what looks to be a modified bicycle lock. It's just a fucking modified bicycle lock. It's made from the lock people. The lock people put that together. You know, it was just repurposed like here. So it's not really even like a specific special NES item. That's what sticks out right away. At least, you know, give it the branding. Fucking put the Mario on it. You know, do something creative with it. Make it like an actual gaming item, but it's not a gaming item. It's just a fucking lock. And you're looking at that and you deal with the reality. I don't see how he didn't lose Patreons. I don't see how he didn't lose some patrons after they watch that video. They're like, literally, we're paying this motherfucker to tell us about a lock for a couple minutes? Jesus. The Winged Avenger. What kind of gaming historian talks about the Super Mario Brothers and Sonic the Hedgehog before talking about the pioneers of gaming? No one mentions them whatsoever. He doesn't mention them on his channel. His viewers don't even know what Atari is. Good point. He's supposedly the gaming historian. The gaming historian. But it seems like he only talks about Nintendo history. Nintendo history. I don't see anything about the Atari. I don't see anything about the Intellivision. Maybe he kind of knows, like he said, he knows that his audience, specific audience, maybe he looks at his demo and they're not going to be interested in that stuff. But you know what? Tough shit. He calls himself the gaming historian. The gaming historian. What a shitty gaming historian, right? I think he should relaunch his channel, rename himself the Nintendo gaming historian. The Nintendo historian. You know, something about Nintendo. And even he fails at that. I would wager that many other people are far better historian type channels. I mean, fuck, anyone that uploads more than a couple months, you know? Yeah, I just don't. Yeah, but good point there. You know, he's not going to. He's going to stick with just Nintendo stuff. Maybe he might venture out, into Sega sometimes. Maybe he has, but it just seems like 9% of his history is just about Nintendo, right? Anime Wolf Gamer. Games that were loved since they have came out in the 90s is always a double-edged sword on whether they're good games or not. Really, these games were big for introducing people to the first take on gaming and introduced gaming mechanics we all love, but would later improve as years go on. Yeah, it is a double-edged sword. You know, sometimes there's going to be a game that comes out and it's ahead of its time. But maybe people look at it and they think it's stupid. Or, you know, think about some of those early racing games or the very early 3D games. You know, I would say that there are sometimes they can stand a test of time. But I don't know, like, how do you judge them? Like, you would have to judge these games, of course, and review them for the time that they came out, which is tough if you're doing a retro review. Because if you didn't grow up during those times, then you can't really appreciate what these games were if you're, you know, back in those times. I mean, there was a time where people were like, fuck, you know, GoldenEye, this is amazing. Things are never going to get better than this. You know, like, people looked at the polygon graphics and they were just like amazed. But now it's kind of hard to look at. So they were pioneers. They were trailblazing games. But the sad thing is, many of those games are just trash, looking back on them now. And something like Bubsy 3D, you know, it was trash and not really a pioneering game in the least also. Bubsy 3D. What could possibly go wrong? Everything. Rune Mamba. Looks like Jesse from Team Rocket. I'd say both Iron Man and Wolverine are central figures in a shirt because they're the only ones looking into the camera. Great point. You get the booby prize right there. You know, they were looking directly in the camera. So it was between those characters, not specifically because they were bigger, right? But I like that you came by and noticed that, you know. Props on that. Love this shirt also. Getting a lot of compliments on this shirt. Red Stratus 97. It may be because I lived at the time period that these games came out and can easily appreciate them for what they are. True, some games are better than others, but since I played the games in that era, I can appreciate ones I never touch when I actually get to them. I recently bought a few cheap PS1 games that I look forward to playing. Yeah, it's like I said, it's hard to get an appreciation for these old games if you're spoiled right now. But if you look back and you play the games and it's something unique, like for instance, Time Cop. I like the music of Time Cop. FBI, get on it. And I'm like, that's really amazing sound for a Super NES. It's really amazing sound for a Super NES. I didn't know the Super NES was capable of that. I didn't know all about the technological capabilities of the Super NES. I'm like, that looks like an early PlayStation 1 sprite game. It's pretty fucking amazing. And I played a Japanese game called Spriggan, and it had some interesting scaling effects. Nothing really to write home about. Not one of the best graphically demanding games on the SNES by any means. But I find myself just kind of surprised when I look at like what some of these systems were capable of for their time. Next up, Energy Turtle. I played modern games like Borderlands 3 and Red Dead Redemption 2, but at the same time, I get just as much enjoyment playing old games. The old retro games I can't really go back to are from the PS1, the graphics give me a headache. Mario 64 still holds up and always will, in my opinion. Mario 64, it tends to hold up better for some of the 3D games of that time, and here's why. Very simplistic, basic graphics. Very simplistic lines. I think with the PS1, a lot of those games, they tried to put a lot of detail, and that just really didn't work, But making the game simplistic, I think that's a key to make a game look good, whatever hardware you have. And Nintendo, they're masters at making games look good, even if the hardware is really not there. But Mario 64, and sorry, I lost your comment for a second. About what holds up, you can get a lot of enjoyment playing old games. One thing I like doing is going through my ROM list and playing some games I've never heard of. Just kind of like ROM roulette, I call it. I go down with the cursor, I'm like, okay, I'm going to hit this one. I don't know what I'm going to play. I guess Steam has a feature. Steam does it like, what do they call it on Steam? I forget, but you go through and then you get it like a random game. And I landed on one called SOS. I didn't know what it was. But it's really atmospheric. It's kind of like you're in a ship and your sister is sick and then the ship falls on its side. And it actually has elements of like horror in it, so you never really know what you're going to find. And we got one more comment here from the Winged Avenger. This was no insurrection, just a bunch of people peacefully protesting. Antifa infiltrated the protest and convinced a few people to turn violent. Trump doesn't need to be removed from office. He has already been removed. We had an election. Wait, the Federal Reserve rigged the election in order to place their two puppets in the White House? The first I'm hearing this. The Federal Reserve can rig elections? I'm curious. They can do this? Okay, then why do people even vote? Right? If the Federal Reserve rigs the elections, then did they rig it for Trump in 2016? I'm just curious. Educate me there, Winged Avenger. You said that it was a bunch of people peacefully protesting. So you're saying it was like Woodstock, right? It was like Woodstock in 69. And then the evil Antifa infiltrated the protest and convinced a few people to turn violent. See, the thing is, I understand that you're trying to go with a narrative here, Winged Avenger. Okay, I understand it. And the thing is, you seem like a smart person. You leave a lot of intelligent comments, but I don't know what it is about politics that seems to make people, I don't know. I don't know what it is about politics. People get so involved in politics and they have to feel certain ways. The reality of the situation is this, the Winged Avenger. It's possible. Maybe, after things started breaking out, maybe there was some people that escalated, maybe from the BLM and the Antifa movement, maybe possibly. So, okay, maybe possibly could be a few people there. Who knows? It was a crowd. It was chaos. A lot of crazy things happened. But if you want us to believe that the crowd that went there was just peaceful protesters, Rudy Giuliani talked about having a trial by combat. Trump said something along the lines of, you know what, we're not going to take back our country, peacefully, or something like that. It was the kind of things that you would say if you're trying to pump up a mob of people to go somewhere. Now, whether or not Trump wanted that to happen, who knows? He says a lot of stupid things that might escalate situations. Who knows? Maybe there's a lot of people that wanted that to happen. People were killed, Winged Avenger. Now, does that blame lie on just Antifa and the left? I think that's what you're trying to paint here, but, is it more realistic that maybe it's possibly a shared responsibility between Trump, between his protesters, not the peaceful one? There's probably a couple just chill, peaceful protesters that wanted to go there and hold signs, but no, the violent protesters, and then the infiltrators that maybe escalated things to another level, possibly. So yeah, the characterization of Trump being an innocent baby and it just being all the left and that's why things happen, that's not going to work. So let's just go ahead and try to look at things objectively and not from a lens of left and right and blue and red. Okay? That's it. I'm out. Take care.